coming up on The Source.
The reason why they didn't want to vote in public is because they had promised people who were their friends. Now it went from $220 to $21.
You have to pay people well and treat them well, and people are realizing I can go flex.
I just missed the entire day. Now my employer is not gonna, all right, it happens once or twice, all right, cool. It keeps happening on a continuous basis.
It's working the way it's supposed to work. Good evening. This is Dr. Curry.
This is Kobe Owens.
Sinead Darby.
And welcome to The Source. Well, there's so much going on, and I really want to make sure we get to the heart of the matter of many of our issues of today that we wanted to discuss. We started a new segment entitled "No Longer Will We Be Disrespected or Discarded or even, just made to feel like we don't matter." For so long in the city of Wilmington over the past few years, there have not been a voice that really speaks for the unvoiced or the people who can't be heard. And what we wanted to do is we wanted to make sure that we start speaking up and speaking out. We talked about, we believe that the mayor and IMAC owes an apology to our community for the conference call that was sent. And I have not sent that letter yet, but I will be sending it. I want to keep transparency. But we also wanted to deal with this whole FOIA situation with the city council. It is unhumane. It's unbelievable. Let's just put it that way, that they would not take the advice of their own council and still do things illegal. Now, I've come to this conclusion. I believe it was they decided to do what they wanted to do because they feel that you Wilmingtonians don't really care. They can just do what they want to do, disrespect people, disrespect policy, and do it as long as we pass the mayor's budget. That's the only thing that will not be compromised. Well, enough is enough. I did send the letter, and to my understanding, they have been served.
Yes.
And they have up until last week to respond. I'm looking forward to the response. And I want to say to all of you that whatever the response is, you will know. Whatever the retaliation is, you will know. We're not playing games and we're not afraid. You have a right to be respected. You have a right to be heard. You elect people into office to serve you, not to serve themselves. I see too many people enriching themselves. I see too many people trying to do their own thing and not following process. That day is over. We're going to watch city council. We're going to watch the mayor's office very closely. And all retaliation, I'm bringing it straight to you. I want you to see who represents you and how they react once they're caught doing something that is not appropriate. And I think it's just horrible. So we opened up the show today by just sharing with them in this one segment. The city council have been served. I want to see what their response is. How do you are told by your council not to do something and you say forget it, do it anyway?
Yeah, I mean, it's very similar to what happened down in Georgetown, right?
Yeah.
They violated their FOIA by having a meeting that was supposed to be done in the public, held in private, and took a vote. You cannot conduct any council official business in private, no matter what. You can have as much discussion as you want, but you can't have that final vote.
Yeah, but you know what I heard? And I don't know how true this is. I heard through the grapevine, as they say, or through the streets, I heard that the reason why they didn't want to vote in public is because they had promised people who were their friends that, hey, I'm going to take care, I'm going to vote for you. But they really didn't. They voted for who, according to the streets, the mayor wanted voted in all three of those positions. And that's why they didn't want to do it in public. So they did it in private. But now it has to now come back. And that's why one of the things I've requested in my letter is that they vote for all of the candidates who had applied. as opposed to just doing a unanimous vote for everybody who's already there. Because that's the easy fix, but that's not the fix we're looking for. We want transparency.
I
Uh,
agree.
and I'm careful because I don't want you to have to, at this point, because you're served too. I don't want to throw you in this loop, but I just wanted, I don't know if you had anything else you wanted to share on that area.
No, I'm just like you. I'm waiting to see what the response is going to be.
Yeah, and we're going to let you know, those of you who watch us faithfully, and I want to thank many of you who are talking to us. But we're going to let you know specifically what happens as it is happening, and every piece of correspondence I receive, I'm going to make sure that you understand and have it as well, because enough is enough. We will not continue to be disrespected, and this community will have a voice and have representatives who care about them over their own personal agendas. We're going to move it a little bit further and just share. Let's talk a little bit about this COVID benefits, because now we're in March. It's all over. All of the free money, the free food stamps and things in it is all affected now. What do you have on that?
Yeah, so as of March 1st, 2023, which was earlier this week, the Delaware Division of Social Services issued emergency benefits for February that was for every household that was eligible. That was the last of it. We will no longer be receiving those COVID-19 public health emergency levels, and they're going back to pre-pandemic qualifications. So please keep eye out if you see a difference in whether it's SNAP benefits, unemployment, POC. All of it has changed back to normal now. So making sure you're on top of that, or if you know someone who is going to be impacted by that, making sure that they stay on top of their case and their situation.
Now, one of the things I will give you credit for, Kobe, you did bring up that it was coming.
Yeah.
And now that it's here, and one of the things I'm concerned about is that a lot of times it hits our community the worst. Now that we don't have some of those benefits, I heard one woman on TV, I think it was on CNN, she was sharing how she was getting $220 in food stamps. And now it went from $220 to $21. That's a major hit.
Yeah.
And I don't know what other people, based on their eligibility, will become. But food didn't go down. Now that COVID benefits it went up, right? So I really hope that we are paying attention to it, and I hope and trust that you all have saved and prepared, and not just used the money just to use it loosely, because we knew at some point it was going to come to an end, and you had started warning us way before now. But I do want to say, for those of you who have children who are in daycare and you're using POC, starting, they're going to give a couple extra months before they go back to the parent fees. And a lot of times that is very costly as well. So please, please make sure you're paying attention to all the benefits you got during COVID. It's over now, and you have to make sure you're able to still leave. I just hope it does not affect us to the place of people being homeless and their children not being able to eat.
And this also, if it affects TANF, it affects the general assistance, all the emergency cash benefits that was out there has now ended or gone back to normal. This also affected like programs like DHAP, which is continuing, but the scope of DHAP now is very narrow. So again, as people still go forth, things are more expensive. Housing is more expensive. Food's more expensive. Eggs are more expensive. With these benefits changing and reducing, there's going to be a lot of people who are going to need help.
Yeah. Are you aware of any of the information about the unemployment? Because I heard that is going to be affected too. Because during COVID, they gave a lot of grace to several things. I just didn't get a chance to get into any details. Do you have any details on the unemployment?
So from my understanding, the mats that you could get from unemployment has already returned to normal, right? But now I think they're going to be changing the application back to the pre-pandemic one. So I'm presuming less people are going to be eligible.
Yeah, I just hope that those of you who are in the market for a job, I hope that you're able to apply. There's a lot of jobs that are open. People are applying and they're not going. They're not staying. I just didn't understand that whole. Maybe it was too much else going on the side, but there's a lot of jobs that are opening and people are just not staying.
Yeah, I think it's a mixture of both. I think you have to pay people well and treat them well, and people are realizing I can go flex on my own time and make money.
Yeah, and
and make more money. Like, it's like so many different ways to get money, but then at the same time, like I have a nonprofit. It's been hard trying to find good people, and I'm paying well. Like I'm not paying you minimum wage. Like what's your price? Like
Yeah.
I'm paying you what you need, and it's been hard trying to find people too.
Yeah, and
So
I'm in that same zone
yeah,
with trying to find, and we're paying pretty good, really. I mean, I think we're paying well for daycare providers, and it's just that the workforce is just not there for people to get. And then when they apply, eager to get the interview, and then after the interview is over, before they got the interview, they knew what the salary was and everything else, and I just don't know. But I just hope and trust that these benefits that are going away does not hurt our community to a very high level. One more thing I wanted to cover in this area, or in this first segment, is the prison reform.
Yes.
So much is going on with it, and I'm just trying to wrap my head around it as the community wraps its head around it. What do we have?
So on Wednesday, State Senator Marie Pickney held a state of the state corrections kind of forum and policy gathering of the minds, right? This is the second annual one she has done, and it was at the Route 9 Library, not far from here. But it brought energy, it brought the thinkers in the room, it brought the policy wonks in the room to talk about what's going on with our probation system. It also centered the conversation around the individuals who are currently going through the probation system or have recently gone through it. Right now in Delaware, we have about 4,400 individuals in prison. And of those individuals, about 1,100, a quarter of them, are currently only waiting pretrial, right? They're on pretrial. We have 10,244 people as of today on probation. So what came of this was Senator Marie Pickney introduced a bill that would overhaul our criminal justice system here. And this is around parole and probation. The bill, right, changes some of the parole rules. It reduces qualifications for rearrest. It creates greater access to records for people who are currently in prison. And also, it limits probation to a maximum of 1 year so that people can get back to their everyday lives once they are out so that they can become productive. And what we see a lot happening, right, is people who are on parole. And they have to go in, check in with their probation officer and all this at weird times of the day. I can't, every few weeks just take off and be there where I'm supposed to have an 11 a.m. meeting, but because you're so backed up, I don't get to see you until 4, and I have to stay there or I violate my probation. So now I've just missed, instead of a lunch break, I just missed the entire day. Now my employer is not going to, all right, it happens once or twice. All right, cool. It keeps happening on a continuous basis. Guess what? That employer's going to say, you're too big of a headache. You got to go. So it's small things like that that has kind of compounded this whole issue of a broken system of individuals going back into the system, could be because now they lose their job, now they can't pay their fines. Now they can't pay their fines, now they go back to jail.
Yeah, no, and I wish I was able to attend the summit. I had to go to a dance thing with my daughter, but I planned on going. But I've been talking to Senator Pickney more about the data, like the foundation of like how did all the systems talk to each other? Because I do a lot of work around bail reform, especially around Mother's Day. I raise money and we bail out mothers who can't afford like small petty bail, like $500, $1,000, right? So doing work around there, but there's no data being collected, and I think it's terrible, like the connection from like even like from policing to the bail system to the being incarcerated to probation. The systems aren't talking to each other.
Wow.
Right. So if you don't have that happening, the foundation is not even there to say we need this or this program is needed or this is the missing gap here when you don't have data. So for me, that's what I've been working on with a few people, trying to figure out, because I've been asking questions like, what's the average bail amount? I can't even really get that.
Wow.
There's certain like basic things I just can't get. That's like the criminal justice system is, it's working the way it's supposed to work. So
it's working the way it's supposed to work?
Yeah, it's built that way.
Oh,
And
in
some
other words, no. When you say that, you don't want nobody to requote you when you're running for office. That you're saying they're working the way it's supposed to work. Because that's a bite. That's what do you call those things? That's
So,
a sound bite. You're not saying that. You're saying it's working the way someone wants it to work, but it's not effective.
correct.
Okay, please let's clear that up because I can
Yeah.
hear them now saying, "See what she said." As soon as you said, I'm like, "Whoa, that's not what you mean." I hope.
but on top of what Senator Marie Pickney was there to talk about, you also heard from Delaware State Housing Authority and talked about the need to kind of reform um, qualifications for housing as well too, and how probation has been a barrier for individuals
Really?
being able to get safe and affordable housing coming out of prison as well too. Um, one, I could talk about the affordable housing crisis for hours, right? But if you want to keep people from going to jail again, they have to have somewhere to live,
Absolutely.
somewhere safe, right?
Absolutely.
And then of course, the center of that as well too is providing well-paying jobs so that they don't have to go back to whatever crime they committed, right? So, because here's the one thing, we're gonna do what we got to do to survive. That's just human nature right there. And this system in which we live in and deal with every single day clearly shows that it's okay to do that if your skin's a little lighter.
Mm.
But if your skin's dark, they're gonna demonize you and punish you and try to strip you of building for yourself and your family. So that's kind of just where that is right now. It's gonna be very interesting to see how this bill goes forward. But the General Assembly will be back starting this week coming up, which means the hearing will for this bill will probably be within the next 2 to 3 weeks.
So you probably believe that it's designed to not have the data so it can continue to harm our community to the level that it harms our community.
Yeah, the criminal justice system was built for this.
Okay, I hear you. And you're saying that even the people who deal with housing are saying, why don't we find a way to deal with this? Because people trying to get housing, but because there are rules, they can't even get housing.
Mm-hmm.
And y'all both are saying nobody's talking to each other.
Correct.
Wow, that's another voiceless situation there. How has this been able to go on for this long? I'm sorry to interview you.
Yeah, I can't. Listen,
Listen,
I'm-
it's built like after
Yeah, it's built like this.
After we were enslaved, they created a system to keep demonizing us, and it was built on oppressing Black people, and that's where the criminal justice system is. So then, when you have a system, you say it's not working. Well, it's working, right?
According to how they wanted to
According
work.
to how
Or
it's
designed.
how it's designed. It was
Okay.
designed
Well,
for
this
that
is
mere
not-
factor. So like so for me it's like I think the real conversation like long term is like dismantling systems, because how do you change the very foundation of a system embedded in racism, white supremacy, and oppression of Black folks in their bodies?
And when people like you talk like that, they immediately, like they said, defund the police. When that became a big issue, when you didn't mean we don't need police, it needs to be redone.
Yeah, it needs
redone.
to be redone.
Right, I understand that. So I just don't. Where I'm not able to wrap my arms around and my mind around is the mere fact that people are being penalized in a system that is designed to continue to hurt them.
Yeah.
And then they complain that they're flooding the system when the system is designed for this to happen.
System is 100% designed for this, but I think also if you look at who's working in this field right now, who's trying to change this, it started in 2019, right, with Senator Darius Brown,
Okay.
the second African American male to represent the state of Delaware in the state Senate, right? And next to him was Senator Lockman, the second African American woman to represent Delaware. You look at over in House side, you had Stephanie Bolden, you had Sherry Dorsey Walker, you had Kendra Johnson, you had I'm missing one person, Frank Cook, you had Nnamdi Chokosha, right?
I hope you wasn't missing it on purpose, but go ahead.
You had all of them there.
Uh-huh.
When that first major piece of legislation change that Senator Brown introduced. Now you fast forward to this year.
Mhm.
Who's on this bill? Who's the prime sponsor? Senator Marie Pickney, just the third African American Black woman
Mhm.
to sponsor this. In the House, it's Representative Melissa Minor Brown, Sophie Phillips, Deshauna Neal, and Medina Wilson Anton. Right? You look at this. It's women of color.
Oh.
Right? It's the representatives, the Black Caucus members down there who are pushing this legislation. Right? You look at 2016, we had 4 total members. Charles Potter, Stephanie Bolden, J.J. Johnson, and Senator Margaret Rose Henry in the Senate.
Mm-hmm.
You look at today, we have, I believe, and I'm doing this math quick, I believe we have 15, 16 Black members down in Dover.
Right.
That's a huge difference, and you're seeing that as the system starts to change now.
Okay. Yeah. Well, the only thing I'm hopeful is that the 16, if that's the real number, I'm hoping that 16 will get behind it and see that there's an issue, because it's the women shouldn't have to carry this alone.
Right.
And that's where I'm at, right? And that's why I was sitting there thinking, and again, sometimes when we here on this the source, we take issue with certain politicians because of what they're doing. We're going to continue to do that. But what I don't want to ever do is throw everybody away because they make some bad decisions.
Mhm.
Depends on how they decide to correct their wrong as well. But this whole prison reform has to be looked at sincerely. You said dismantled, okay, but it needs to be fixed immediately.
Right.
We really can't wait on this.
And I think I said 15. It's 16 members.
Okay.
Who are African American in the whole General Assembly, right? That's 25% of the 62 people down there are now African American, which is on par with the racial breakdown of the state.
Okay. So that means if we can do a whole lot with 4, we can do a whole lot with 3 times as much,
Mhm.
or 4 times as much. I think. What do you think? You think so?
So too. I'm hopeful.
You're hopeful?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm hopeful.
But
Representation matters, but it doesn't always translate to Black policy.
well, you would know that,
But
wouldn't you?
yeah,
Because you're
yeah,
sitting amongst
yeah.
the council that have 100%, well, not
But
100%,
the people on the state level who are being elected, like I really believe in them, in the work that they're doing.
okay.
The majority, especially the new ones.
Yeah. Or just say the majority, because
Yeah.
you take issue with certain people.
Yeah, with
And
the
not you
majority.
only, all of us do. All right. Yeah. And I believe that they can. I'm hoping that bringing it up today, Pickney will get some more support. I
Absolutely.
want to see some male support there, some Black male support there, because at the end of the day, I do believe too that the system was designed to hold us back, to keep us from progressing forward. However, we now have to
Yeah.
reveal it and fix it.
I agree. Yep.
And fix it. We can't keep talking about too much committee meetings sometimes, I think.
Right. And I'm not saying that just because they're not a sponsor on this bill, they don't care anymore. I'm saying that you have others who are now new down there who are now taking on this fight as well too, while there's still other stuff in the works, because one bill's not going to change anything, right? A package of bills isn't going to really change the system.
Right.
It's going to take time, and it's good to see that there's a succession plan, right?
Mhm.
Regardless of where
enforcement is
one
key.
person meet. You're
We
right.
can pass all the legislation in the world,
Mhm.
but if the enforcement doesn't happen,
But let me go a little bit further. But how many? You tell me, because I'm not the smart one in this area. You tell me, how many times if I'm a state representative or a senator, how many times can I put my name on a bill?
As many as you want.
Oh, so even though you gave an out and an off ramp for those who don't have their names on these bills, it needs to be there. If you are for the cause, you need to show your representation. That's how I feel. And I'm not throwing anybody away, but I just think that when something is hurting your people to the level that this is, your name need to be there. I am in support of reform. I am in support of whatever it is to change. And what we have to do as African Americans is stop getting so upset when we disagree with one piece of a bill. We may disagree with language. Okay, fight that out. But while you're fighting that out, make sure you're showing your support for the 90%. What I teach now, neither one of y'all are married right now, so when y'all come to my couch or when y'all get to the wife or the husband, I want to make sure that y'all know the first thing I share with you is that every relationship, every good marriage is 80-20. You're going to find 80% you love and you're going to love for the rest of your life. There's going to be 20% you can't stand. But do you get rid of the 20 because of the 80? And neglect the 80. It's important. So that's why I'm hoping that we'll stop saying I'm not going to be a part of a bill because I don't like 10% of it. I don't like 5% of it. No, you need to go ahead and marry it and know that the next round may be just even worse. All right, well, that's all we have there. Anything else you want to say on this whole probation reform?
That's all I have for this one.
That's all you have for that one?
I don't have nothing else. I'm glad it's happening. I'm glad Marie is down there doing the work.
Yes, I am too. I am very, very grateful to see the work that is being done and the women that are leading the way.
That's what we do. You know, we black women.
I don't know about all that.
You
I don't know about all that, but I'm just going to keep saying that. Hint, okay? We'll be right back. Good.
Expected the extra pandemic SNAP benefits ended at the end of February for Louisiana residents who were receiving them. Now, the Department of Children and Family Services points out some may need to rely on other resources while making that financial adjustment. Jasmine Franklin reports.
Those benefits were temporary to begin with.
COVID-19 SNAP benefits are coming to an end. The additional benefits began back in March of 2020 at the start of the pandemic.
A lot of people were receiving a lot more than probably they were used to receiving.
DCFS says people receiving SNAP benefits received a minimum of $95 more each month. Those additional funds will no longer be available to consumers beginning March 1st.
We know that this is going to be adjustment time for anyone who has been receiving the emergency allotments.
More than 400,000 households receive SNAP benefits in Louisiana alone, a huge increase in the number of households receiving benefits since the start of the pandemic.
Pre-pandemic, our numbers were about 360,000 households received benefits, and now we have about 418,000. We are about 100,000 more people on benefits.
Louisiana was one of 28 states that received the additional funds every month since the start of COVID-19.
Every month, we had to file for an extension. So in order for us to receive those benefits, we had to file for an extension and request that those benefits be extended to us. We're not getting this one. There was nothing else to be for us to give out.
The additional COVID SNAP benefits ended nationwide, not just here in Louisiana. And SNAP users will now receive their pre-pandemic benefits.
Emergency allotment is what's stopping.
There are several things people can do as they make adjustments. DCFS tells us they recommend SNAP users apply for WIC and visit local food banks and pantries. In Shreveport, Jasmine Franklin, KSLA News 12.
We're back. Well, now we're going to move to the Sinead area of the world.
Yeah.
What's going on and what you want to share today?
Yeah, so it's actually a lot going on. But today we're just going to talk about the city of Wilmington has a summer youth program, so they're accepting applications.
Okay.
We got to get our kids, and after a certain time, you can't send kids to daycare or a summer camp after like 12, 13.
13, yeah.
Yeah, so we got to get our kids into these jobs and working, and I just think it's so key and important. I love that the city of Wilmington does this. I was a product of summer youth employment through the city of Wilmington.
Oh, I can hear somebody saying now, that's why I want my child there.
No. I did summer counseling. I worked at a office space one time, and it really helps to build character development. I got a little bit of money in my pocket. I was able to get my own hair, nails, and toes done. That's all I was concerned about at the time. So it's just a good program. So I just want everyone to visit City of Wilmington's website, apply. If you need assistance, reach out to your council people, reach out to some community people, and they'll help you get your kids set up with the application. Because it is kind of a lot. I remember I helped one kid do it recently, and I had to help her open up a bank account. I had to do this.
For direct deposit.
Yeah, for direct deposit. So it could be, if you don't have a lot of resources or knowledge, it could be a lot of work. But if you start now and you get some assistance, we're here to help. So
has a lot of that what do you call it, bureaucracy or
bureaucracy?
Yeah, has it been torn down? Because at one point, if you wasn't in with a council person, you didn't even get a job.
I don't know. I heard that before. You had to be in the know.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's still the same now.
Anybody know about how many jobs or anything?
So it depends on how many employment places apply, right? So of course you have the summer youth programs that apply for counselors, the pools. So I started out at Price's Pool, right?
Okay. Your product too.
I am.
Oh, okay.
I am.
Yeah.
I think I did like 3-4 years, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
We used to get the paper checks back then. And there was
Yeah.
no
That's what
direct
we got,
deposit,
paper
right?
checks.
They're like, yeah, nah, you don't make enough for direct deposit. But it depends on how many additional employers put in and request for placement of individuals. But just a little more background. So the deadline is April 2nd.
Oh.
You have to send in a copy of your photo ID, your social security card, your birth certificate, so it gets to searching, current proof of income, and current proof of home address. Now, if
This is for the parent or for the child?
this is for the child.
And you gotta get your work permit too.
Yes.
Through your school and all of that.
Oh.
And the proof of parental income.
Yeah.
And you
Okay,
could
so
be
it's the income.
14 to 17 years old. And now you remember, or 14 to 21, because I remember they
Oh, they
changed
moved
that.
it to 21?
Yeah, I remember they changed that because I remember I had used it one summer
Okay.
when I was in college. But yeah, so just apply, take advantage of the resources. There are so many other things too outside of, like, we're thinking about summertime, because I know I'm thinking about summertime for my kids, what they're going to do. I know FAME has a great summer program for high schoolers and even younger age. My daughter's going to first grade. She's going to do the FAME summer program. There's Tennis Rock House in my district. They have tennis that if you want to put your kid in tennis. So there's programs out there. Just start asking questions, see what your children are interested. I know the PAL Center, they have some great programming coming up for the summertime.
And Eve Zion Fair too.
Zion Fair. So start looking, applying. Those applications could be hefty of filling it out for your kids, but get started now. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
And let me just say this to our parents. Something happened with the summer program last year. It was an outstanding program. We do participate. We receive some children. But parents, let's teach our children a work ethic. There is no such thing as the work is too hard. For example, if the children are going to be in the sun, make sure you provide them with sunscreen or whatever. You don't want your child to be able to just make an excuse for not wanting to work. One child said, it's too hot outside. Okay, but this is a summer camp. We go outside.
right, fast.
So the mother called and said, my child is not going to go outside. I said, okay, I understand. So I called the persons in charge and remove the child from our site. Not that they outside all day, but we have a good hour and a half that we do outside play. But what about even in the office? You can't be on your phone. This is when you learn how to have ethics. And when you tell a person you can't be on the phone, she's upset because her boyfriend needs to communicate with her. We have to teach our children, and I'm not a product of Wilmington, but I'm a product of Philadelphia summer program, and that's some of the things they taught us: how to be ethical,
Yeah.
how to dress appropriate. So these programs are designed; they're supposed to be designed to help build. And all honest work is good work. Now, I'm not saying that you got to be out there digging ditches. That's not. I've not seen that at all. I saw them planting some trees. I may have seen them doing some work around offices. But I just think we need to teach that working is cool.
No, I agree. I agree. And what's really cool about the summer youth program, now it's all year long. So there's some slots
Oh.
that kids can apply to work all
didn't
year
know
long.
that. I didn't know
And
that.
they have an arts program for youth. So if your child is like super artistic, into that type of thing, they have an arts youth program. I forgot the name of it, but once I have it, I can share it. But I just thought about that. Those are like other youth programs that the city offers. So
Is it through Parks and Rec?
yeah, the artistic one is through the Cultural Affairs Office.
Okay.
I know that for a fact.
Okay.
With Tina Betts, but the rest of them are through Parks and Rec.
Okay. All right. Well, we here, and the deadline is April 2nd. You said.
April 2nd.
April 2nd. So please get all those documents together and let's get our children working so that we can have a safe and sound summer.
And this is where the investment happens.
Yes.
Right? We talk about
Yes.
violence.
Yes. Yes.
We talk about
Yes.
like making people become a productive adults. This is it.
Yes.
This is where the money goes.
Absolutely.
This is where we invest in.
It's the most critical investment any city could make.
Yes. And I believe that. And that's why I wanted to make sure that we keep them working.
Women have been shaping human history since the dawn of civilization, but it's the month of March that was chosen to honor women throughout history. Here's why. The origin story of Women's History Month is up for debate, but it was born right here in the U.S. during the suffrage movement. when women were fighting for the right to vote. Some historians say that its roots can be traced back to a protest on March 8, 1857. It was then that a group of women from New York City textile factories allegedly staged a strike over poor working conditions. But scholars argue that this demonstration was fabricated, suggesting that the strike was invented retroactively to give the annual celebration a more compelling backstory. At first, women's history was only observed for one day. The Socialist Party of America first declared National Women's Day in 1909 amid the women's rights movement, but the idea quickly spread around the globe. The idea of an International Women's Day was proposed and approved in 1910 at the International Conference of Working Women in Copenhagen, which we now celebrate every year on March 8th. Fast forward to the 1970s in Sonoma County, California, where a group of people were fed up that women's history was being left out of the classroom. The first Women's History Week was celebrated in March 1978, culminating with a parade in downtown Santa Rosa, California. This local celebration turned into a movement. Activists pushed to make this week official, and it worked. In 1980, President Carter issued the first presidential proclamation, declaring the second week of March as National Women's History Week. And that momentum kept growing. In 1987, Congress officially declared March as National Women's History Month. A special presidential proclamation is issued each year which honors the extraordinary achievements of women in America. But more than 30 years later, the fight for gender equality continues. In 2020, for every dollar a man made, women made 82 cents.
And we're back. Well, Kobe's Corner is now live and popping, as the young folks say. What's going on?
Yeah, so I'm going to start on the national level real quick. I want to start with, we talked about on the show how Secretary of Labor Marty Walsh was leaving to become the new NHLPA executive director, the National Hockey League Players Association executive director. It was a lot of debate to see who was going to replace him. Even Nancy Pelosi was making calls for former Representative Sean Patrick Mahoney. But I think President Biden made a great pick in tapping the current Deputy Secretary, Julia Su, who was the former Labor Secretary of the second largest labor department in the whole nation in California, right? They're right under the U.S., who has been a strong champion for workers, for worker rights, expanding protections for workers, and then also really fighting back against discrimination in the workplace as well, too. This will make her the first Asian American Pacific Islander to be a cabinet secretary in the Biden administration, which has been the most diverse cabinet of any president, any of the 46 presidents we have had. So again, this is going to be good. She's been doing great work, especially in cracking down on trafficked workers. So whether the workers are undocumented or not, individuals who are doing slave labor pretty much on American soil, she has been cracking down and going after employers who are taking advantage of people doing things like that. So a wide range of both Democratic senators who are going to have to be on board to confirm her into the actual secretary spot. Community activists, labor leaders, they are all very excited about this pick. So
they are?
They are.
Okay, good.
So I think he did a good job with picking her. I look forward to see who's going to be her replacement as a deputy secretary. But I think this is a good step forward, especially when addressing things like that.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that he made that choice. I heard someone speaking of that the other day, that they thought that his choice would be great. How long do you think it's going to take them to get her confirmed?
So I think they're going to push for it pretty quick. Issue is some Republican senators are going to try to hold it up. So it's going to probably take a month for the whole process to get done, and then the nominating vote will probably come like mid-April.
Now, how could they hold it up if they're not in charge of the Senate?
So you can pull all different types of things during committee hearings to delay the committee hearings for as long as possible. They don't have the votes to stop it unless 2 Democrats vote against it.
I got you. All right.
But kind of picking up on a conversation that you both were having earlier when talking about well-paying jobs, right? You're both run nonprofits, right? Our Senator Chris Coons, is partnering with the senator from Oklahoma, the senior senator from Oklahoma, James Langford, to lead their colleagues in introducing a bipartisan Universal Giving Pandemic Response Recovery Act. And what that does is they look to kind of expand and extend the current deduction for charitable giving, right?
Okay.
So the current is $300, right? You're able to deduct if you're giving to charities, houses of worship, religious organizations, other nonprofits, right? 501c3s. Now, this bill would make it available to taxpayers who do not itemize on their tax returns for tax years 2021 and 2022, the below the line deduction of charitable giving on a federal income tax valued at or up to 1/3 of the standard deduction, around $4,000 per individual, $8,000 for married joint filers, right? So hopefully this is going to continue people giving money during this time,
Yeah.
because they can write it off, and really start helping, continue helping a lot of these nonprofits who are still struggling to
Yeah.
recover from that huge dip
Yeah.
that they saw in 2020 and 2021. I think it recovered a little in 2022. Sitting on a board of a few nonprofits, our numbers are starting to look normal almost again. Hopefully by 2024, we're back to that end of 2019 level so that we could continue to build forward.
Right. Okay.
But it's a critical time for a lot of nonprofits, and
Absolutely.
you have to have the right people around the table. So I think this is going to be very impactful for nonprofits.
How are the Republicans taking this?
So they are taking it in a good manner, right? Langford is known to work in a bipartisan way, but they also have Tim Scott from South Carolina, who signed on as a co-sponsor, who brings a more conservative mind, and then Senator Mike Lee, he's a Republican, conservative Republican. He's also somewhat libertarian on some issues. That he's also on this as a co-sponsor, and Senator Susan Collins, who's the most liberal Republican, is on board. So it's a broad support across the board. The other Democrats on it is Senator Jeanne Shaheen from New Hampshire, Amy Klobuchar from Minnesota, and Senator Catherine Cortez Masto from Nevada.
Yeah, well, one of the reasons why I asked how the Republicans take it, and I knew some of the people who were on it, is because if you want the what do you call those
Wealthy.
No, the church folks, the evangelicals.
Yeah.
See, that's how I pay attention to the Republicans. And if you're going to give them evangelicals more money, so they can get more giving going, sure, we'll be with that. And that's why I asked that question, just on purpose. Yeah.
Between charitable giving and tax credits, it seems like it's very easy to get Republicans on board with anything that deals with tax credits.
Yeah.
Except if it's a child tax credit.
Yeah, because they've got enough money to do the child
Right.
tax credit.
So my last point is the following deadline has passed for school board elections.
Okay.
This year, if you go to the website currently, there may be some open spots, but this comes because there has been a bill passed based off of what happened in Colonial District, where you had a child pedophile on the school board but could not be removed. All school board members have to go through a background check. So if you go in and sign up today, it's going to take anywhere from 10 to 15 days until that background check comes back, clears or not. If it clears, then your name's put on the website. So it may seem as though no one's running, but someone may have filed. They may just be in that process.
Okay, and I think that's a good process.
Right. I think it's a great process. Now, also, on May 9th is Election Day. In 2021, I ran a campaign. In 2022, I kind of stayed a little hands off. It is so critical for us to have a good turnout to make sure that we are electing people who represent our voices. The seats that are on the ballot are seats that are all in the city of Wilmington.
Mm-hmm.
Red Clay, CA, Brandywine, CA, and Christina, CA.
Red Clay has 2.
Red Clay has 2,
Right.
but the ones that are in the city of Wilmington nominating districts,
Okay.
these are the people who serve on the Wilmington Learning Collaborative. These are the ones who are going to have an impact on what's happening with the Wilmington Learning Collaborative inside those schools that all signed into it. That's going to have a major impact on the vast majority of our kids here in the city of Wilmington. Red Clay has 2 seats up. The other one is out like Newport area. Brandywine has another seat up, like Naaman Roads area. Christina has another up that is like the city of Newark Incorporated. Across the board, there's seats up all across. Some districts are nominating, but the entire district gets to vote. Some seats are at large, and still the entire district gets to vote. So regardless of where you're at, you will have someone on your ballot. Look to see if there's an opponent and look and see who you would rather vote for. School board members have the opportunity to raise your taxes. They dictate what curriculum is going to be in our schools and how our kids are going to be educated. I would love to see a higher turnout for school board elections than for state rep and state senator elections. Or maybe on par. I'll say they're all
They
important.
should be insane.
They're all important. But our future, which we just talked about, is our most important investment. So therefore, I need y'all to really dive in to see who's running, whether you have a kid in the system or not. Dive in and see who's running and who you would rather support.
Yeah. When you and Jay Street used to always talk about the school boards, I always felt like that was a waste of our time. But then as we move forward, oh my gracious, that is one of the most, and I understood why you were saying you would like more to show up for election, because that now it sends the trajectory of where our system is going and whether or not it will succeed or fail. So it is important that we get out to vote for that election. And I am now a participant. I wasn't, but I am now a participant in voting for school boards. My child is in private school, but I am a participant now because I believe that we need to have the right people representing us to be able to make sure that the trajectory. And look at what DeSantis is doing in Florida. I mean, it's just too much. And staying that, was there anything else you wanted to say on that area?
That is all I have.
I want to stay in this area because there's 2 more things I want to add while we are still on the air. The first one is a little bit about woke. Now, there are people who watch us on the source, and they don't really got an understanding of what is that, because you hear the governor at Centas, whatever his name is, often talking about it comes here to die. Do you understand some of the principles of it that we may get a better understanding? Because I know how I view it, but I want to make sure that those who watch us, when they hear that term, they kind of got a feel for what is it.
So I'll say this. In 2009, 2010, President Obama introduced the Affordable Care Act.
Right.
And to make fun of the Affordable Care Act, it was called Obamacare by the Republicans.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? He owned it. He rocked with it. We got it passed. People still know it as Obamacare. Right? The official name is American Care Act. You look at what happened in 2020. Black Lives Matter, civil uprising, a real push for equity in our system. Well, they can't publicly, because DeSantis still is a politician, he can't say, Black people, your culture's wrong, your thinking's wrong. He can't say that. He says woke. That's his definition.
Right.
Woke means black in his mind. And he is systematically trying to dismantle any opposition that is happening in Florida. Well, Kobe, what does that remind you of? A fascist system and a communist system. He reminds me of Kim Jong-un.
Oh, wow.
In North Korea. Because if you speak out against him, he's going to dismantle you. He is now removing mention of Dr. King
Mhm.
in schools, and if you say Dr. King's name in a class and that kid go home and tell their little racist parents, guess what? Not only are you going to lose your job, you now face prison time
Yeah.
for teaching about Dr. King,
Mhm.
for teaching about Robert Clemente, for teaching about Rosa Parks. In Florida,
Mhm.
he removed a DA, a duly elected DA, who didn't agree with him. He removed from office. The state's Supreme Court even came back. That's pretty much all been appointed by DeSantis and said, whoa, man, you can't do that. You gotta put him, you gotta reinstate him. DeSantis said, okay, I'm not going to though. And there's nothing they can do about it. Duly elected Democrat, dismantled. Now, one of his key allies has introduced a bill that will dismantle and dissolve the Democratic Party in Florida.
Gee.
Completely get rid of the opposition party
Mm.
in Florida.
I don't know how that's going to happen.
He has the votes to do it.
Well, because they got supermajority.
They have a supermajority in the House and in the Senate. And that is what you're fighting up. It's a fascist system that DeSantis is pushing
Mhm.
as he gears up to run for president.
How could he get? How you can't win. The country is bigger than Florida. Florida represent a nice population of, but you know what I'm afraid of? I'm afraid because when Trump won, I said this, and I'm gonna say it again. I'm afraid that there's a lot of private racist people.
No, it is. You're talking
The
about a
Democratic
country.
Party?
You're talking about a country in which a bunch of people said, oh, we back the cops. We back the cops. Stormed the Capitol, killed about 12 cops,
Yeah,
and then blamed black people.
yeah.
And guess what?
Yeah.
A lot of the rest of the people who weren't there to storm the Capitol was like, yeah, it was those black people.
Yeah, yeah.
Those Black Lives Matter people did that.
Yeah.
I ain't see a near pin drop
Black Lives Matter.
of a black person up in that storm. But yet we still got blamed. This is how racist America can be.
Wow. Yeah.
This is why we have an issue with our policing system.
Yeah.
Because even though you're more likely to be killed as a police officer by a white individual, they fear for their lives when they see a black person.
So that's more of DeSantis terminology.
Yeah.
Woke, as opposed to there being a movement.
You woke, I'm woke,
Because we black.
we black.
Oh my God. That's
Black people ain't welcome
That's
in
sad.
Florida.
And that's so sad. And anything that is liberal thought, he pins that to woke too.
Mm-hmm.
So you're right with the whole curriculum. That's a black thing total. So I'm just sitting back, and I just wanted to bring that up because it's just too much, and we're allowing the people to do what they want to do. And I just don't understand how Florida, who was a true purple state at one point, has become so ruby red.
Yeah.
I don't understand. How did this happen? I mean, I think it's because the racism that people were on the fence became, you know what, I'm just what I am, but I'm not going to come out. I'm in the closet racist, I guess you would call it. That's what some people, because when you see these things, you would think the outcry would be, no, you can't do that. But the outcry is, let him do it.
Mm-hmm.
If he wins, that's going to be interesting. Because he's going to run. Everybody's looking to see that Trump is not going to survive not being indicted. He's going to get indicted. I don't know if he's going to go to jail.
Regardless, Trump is running. A lot of his strong allies are sick and tired of his old tactics of name calling and just throwing money at the situation. They blame him for losing the House in 2018, the Senate in 2020. The reason why they didn't flip both chambers in 2022, didn't flip more governorships in 2022. They're moving on for him. Ron DeSantis has used his money, right? He raised almost $200 million for a governor re-election campaign, won by 16 points, but didn't really use his money in Florida. He used his money to prop other people up around the nation to prepare to lay the groundwork for him to run for office, right? You're going to also see multiple other people jump into a race, right, against Trump. You see Nikki Haley jumped in already. Tim Scott's gearing up. Chris Sununu in New Hampshire. Larry Hogan in Maryland, the former governor down there. They're all gearing up. But guess what? I guarantee you, at a certain point, they're going to come together, just like it happened in the Democratic primary. Said, look, we want to stop Trump. We're all going to drop out and coalesce around Ron DeSantis. It is what it is on their side. But guess what? You have white supremacists who are shown he's willing to attack minority communities, but doesn't know how to do any policy, versus another white supremacist who wants to show, I could do it bigger and better than you, and I know policy as well too, who are going to run against each other. That's what it's going to come down to. And I think, it's going to be a very contentious election, and whoever wins, I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that they don't win president.
Well, that's all of us going to be doing that. And I just wanted to bring that up. I wanted people to start feeling that things are happening across this country and even in our state. But I just wanted to see the global, or state thing. The last thing I want to bring up before we go for today is the state police officer of the police who did what they did to the young boy and brother and sisters. Where are we with that? Is there any more information on that? Because I do want to keep that up the front too.
So we're in the early steps of a lawsuit that's still being worked out with all the families that have been involved. There has been a letter sent asking for a litigation hold on all communications in regards to that case, as well as a hold on the body-worn camera footage for that case as well too. So as we are waiting to hear back from that, again, we call on the General Assembly to do their job and what they were elected to do, and make sure everyone's protected across the board, which it seems as though some individuals who have brown and black skin seem to forget that now that they're protected, now that they have status, right, that they're good. They seem to forget that, individuals who just want to live their everyday lives are struggling out here, and that incidents continue to happen and happen and happen. Yes, it's good that we get some on video, but this is happening every single day. So we're calling on them to do their jobs and do what they're supposed to.
Well, we're going to be watching it. We're going to be paying attention. And as we started the show today, we'll end it the same way. Right now, we are holding the city council accountable for their disregard for the citizens of Wilmington and the law of the land. And we're going to hold the state police and elected officials who do not do what they got to do. These two cases I want to follow closely because I want to see how things are unfolding. And I'm going to be sharing retaliations too, because again, all too often, that's why people don't come forward, because they feel they're going to be retaliated against. So it takes a person who's strong enough to handle retaliation to be able to fight back and bark back. And we do have a good venue here. Is there anything else on your calendar, on your table for today?
That's all I have.
Anything else on your table today?
No, nothing at all.
Well, listen, we're now in the month of March, or Lord, I said October, in the month of March, and we are continually moving forward. And I thank y'all for all that y'all do for us and for the community that y'all serve. This is Dr. Curry.
This is Kobe Owens.
Shanae Darby.
See ya.
Take care, y'all.
Talk soon.
All right, we got through it, y'all.
See, I ain't say happy birthday.